Then also, of course, there was the issue that, Madam Chair, which is before this committee, on what generally or specifically happened during the campaign period, where we witnessed ugly scenes of confrontation between some political actors and security agencies. We also had loss of lives, which were very unfortunate. People were injured and so on and so forth. Those were very unfortunate, and I'm glad, Madam Chair, that the police have already appeared before this committee to give their side of the story, because police was in charge of security. As a commission, we put in place arrangements that will enable the voters and the candidates to interact or to hear from one another. But this time, again, the candidates were restricted and the voters were restricted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and they need to observe the SOPs. It's unfortunate, Madam Chair and members, that some of our political actors or candidates were not so keen to observe the SOPs. They felt that they should do things as it has always been done, or as it was in the past, holding mass rallies or campaign rallies. And yet one of the things the Commission pointed out right from the beginning, that in view of the dangers posed by the COVID pandemic and the advice given by the Ministry of Health experts, it is not advisable, it's not acceptable to hold campaign rallies and let the people resort to campaign meetings. But some of the candidates were not willing to comply. We also said there are no public processions along routes, because public processions, Madam Chair, tend to gather people in an uncontrolled way. So we said, please avoid processions, avoid rallies, mass rallies, but some of the candidates acted in defiance. What we did, Madam Chair, as the responsible organ for managing these elections, we invited some of these candidates to a round-table discussion, or their representatives, and we emphasized the need for them to comply with the measures put in place to safeguard the lives of the people and themselves from the contracting the virus. And we also emphasized that, look, we are not going to stand by and watch as you deliberately defy or breach these measures. And the police, who are tasked with maintaining law and order, will have to play their role in ensuring that people comply in accordance with the SOPs put in place. Now, of course, this created ugly confrontations, as Madam Chair and members you witnessed. It created ugly confrontations, which was very unfortunate. So, in the view of the Commission, and we did tell the people of Uganda that these elections can only be as peaceful and tranquil depending on the choices we make. Do I, as a candidate, choose to conduct myself in a manner that befits the environment? If the Electoral Commission says we should not have mass rallies, but if you choose to defy, then security will have to come in and put you to order. So this is where the issue comes in. Say this was an election which had issues and therefore cannot be said to have been free and fair. They single out only one activity, and yet the courts have said that a credible, free and fair election is that which enables or allows all these activities to take place holistically and with the full participation of every stakeholder. Now, when it came to campaigns, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to draw a very clear distinction from all those processes I've mentioned, starting from organizing the the organizing the electoral areas, organizing the polling stations. The Electoral Commission was the main actor, the main driver of those activities. Updating the register, the Electoral Commission. Organizing the registers for the special interest groups, the Electoral Commission. When it came to campaigns, who are the main drivers? Who are the main actors of the campaign process? The role of the commission was to nominate the candidates. That one went on well, with the exception of the nomination of presidential candidates. About, I think, 1 or 2 where there were issues, and some of them were really, I think, deliberately orchestrated. I'm sorry to say this. But the other nominations for all candidates in the other parts of the country went on very well. When it came to campaigns, and the Electoral Commission now set the period for campaigns and said, now, you are free to go. It's like, Madam Chair and members, competitors in running, okay, in athletics. Once you are off the starting blocks, you, the participants, must follow the rules. For example, if they say don't cross the lane to another runner, to your opponent's competitor's lane, you might collide, and then all of you fall, and you know. So, but if some candidates choose to debunk the measures that have been put in place, and well, so when it came to campaigns, Madam Chair, the main actors were the candidates and their supporters. Those were the main actors. Now, many people came up to create the narrative that because of what happened during campaigns, therefore the Electoral Commission was not in charge of the elections. No, that was wrong. Let's ask ourselves, who were the main actors, the main drivers of the campaign process? The candidates, their supporters. Now, when the Electoral Commission put in place the measures stopping mass rallies, and you go ahead and do mass rallies, stopping processions, public processions, you go ahead and do public processions, then that attracts security, law enforcement to come in and say, please, they told you to do this in accordance with these SOPs. You're not doing that. So that's where the difference came in, that some members, so in overall, Madam Chair, as I wind up in answer to this, overall, we are satisfied, save for a few incidents, we are satisfied with the overall processes and procedures in the 2021 general elections and the resultant outcome as reflecting the will of the voters in each electoral area in the country. Now, on the issue of reports on malpractices, Madam Chair and members, many of on polling day, as we all know, since you have gone through that process, is a very hectic day. 34,000 plus polling stations in the country were all busy that day. There were so many different issues that emerged on some of those polling stations. We had the mechanism in place. We had a complaints desk at every tally center in the country. For the National Tally Center, we also had a similar system where complaints could be channeled for immediate response, because the law provides that complaints should be handled as expeditiously as possible before voting or polling closes. Now, so the mechanism of addressing those complaints was in place. As to how effective that mechanism was, Madam Chair, I would have to go to probably to get a report from each district tally center in order to establish or ascertain what nature of complaints were received and how they responded to them. But the mechanism was there, Madam Chair, I want to assure you, because that has been the norm, that once you have an election, you must also set up what we call a complaints desk with toll numbers where the members of the public can call in to raise the various issues for prompt response, because those complaints or issues must be addressed or dealt with before polling closes. Once polling closes and the results have been announced or declared, now the Electoral Commission does no longer have any power to entertain any complaint after the results have been have been declared. That now becomes a court matter. Any complaint or issue arising out of the polling process after the results have been declared falls in the ambit of the courts of law and is no longer, the commission no longer has that power. Now, the failure by the commission to address the complaints, again, Madam Chair, would require more specifics on this so that we know what kind of complaint was raised and where it was raised and why no response was made or no action was taken in time. But we endeavored, as I said, for instance, the commission was very busy after nomination. We're handling a series of complaints from nominated candidates or those who are not being nominated, and we endeavored to make sure that we complete those complaints and take a decision, inform the parties of our decision whether X should be nominated or the nomination should be confirmed. We were busy. We handled, I think, over how many? Over 200, Jennifer? 459 complaints which were handled by the commission during that time. And we used to leave office at about 11 p.m. handling complaints from across the country from the various complainants, those who had been denied the nomination, those who are complaining against candidate X who think should not have been nominated, and so on and so forth. Now, on the names of voters missing on the NVR, Madam Chair and members, there is a process that after the general update of the National Voters Register, we have what we call the display period. This display period is the register being displayed at every parish. Is that correct? At every parish and polling station. Now, this process enables all voters to go and verify or cross-check whether they appear on the voters register. And this period, Madam Chair and members, is well publicized. The public is well informed that between this period to this period, the register will be put on display from about 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock until 5 or 6 p.m. Please let every voter go to establish whether his or her name is on the register. Now, if a voter finds that his or her name is not on the register, and yet he or she applied to become a voter, or in 2016, that person voted, but in 2021, you are not on the register, you raise a complaint, and the commission would attend to that, provided you got registered as a voter. But what would happen, many people don't do this. And when it comes to polling day, that's when they go and discover their names are not on the register. And they start raising complaints. And yet, sufficient time was put in place to allow every citizen who is a registered voter to go and establish whether he or she is on a register and at which polling station. Because that process serves two purposes. One, to confirm that you're on the voters register. Two, to confirm that you are going to vote from polling station X or Y. Now, that is another mechanism that we put in place. Madam Chair and members, is not just a one-day event. It encompasses a series of activities that start right from the time the roadmap is rolled out, which we did in December 2018 at Hotel Africana. And we start with the basics on the ground, reorganizing polling areas, reorganizing electoral areas and polling stations, which was carried out across the country peacefully, Madam Chair. This was done peacefully with the involvement of the citizens and also those who are intending to contest. This was done without any ado, without any violence, without any disruption. It is that process that informs the Commission how many electoral areas we are going to have and for which elective office or position. Then we also went into reorganizing the polling stations. You recall, Madam Chair, in 2016, we had 28,000 polling stations. But in this recent exercise, we had 34,000, almost 35,000 polling stations, an addition of about 7,000. These arise out of this process of reorganizing polling stations. Now, reorganizing polling stations, again, involves the citizens in each respective area, the voters, the candidates, so that they know that whereas in 2016 we only had one polling station here, this polling station has grown because of the number of voters, and we need to split it in order to accommodate a reasonable number of voters. So this is how we come up with this figure. Again, that exercise, members, went on very smoothly without any violence, without any disruption, and so on and so forth. Then we went into, also had the process of entertaining complaints about some of these reorganizations. If there were any complaints, people were at liberty to raise the complaints and we address them. But if you are going to speak a rhetoric, inciting language that is virtually calling people to arms, then are you working for a stable, peaceful Uganda or not? So the choice is ours. To me, these elections are so simple. If only the people make good choices at all levels, the candidates, with the election officers, the security people, all of us. It's very easy to have a credible election. I mean, a peaceful election without all these unfortunate episodes of being seen in our midst. So it's a question of choice, Madam Chair. Now, we commend and welcome the work of this committee in trying to look into or inquire into the reported violations that are said to have occurred during the 2021 general elections. On the issue of voter education, probably I start with the biggest and unprecedented challenge that the Electoral Commission had in the 2021 general elections. Just like any other institution or individual, was the challenges presented by COVID-19. As you know, Madam Chair and honorable members, elections are generally and naturally crowd gatherers. Election activities tend to gather as many people as possible. And one of those areas where we gather as many people as possible is in voter education. The Commission feels that effective, appropriate voter education is that one which enables the Commission members or staff to interact with the members of the public and point out to them the various aspects of their role in participating in elections, the do's and don'ts. If I will give an example, if you want to sensitize voters on how to preserve or to cast a valid ballot or vote, you must demonstrate what makes a vote invalid. You must demonstrate that when you are thumbprinting, make sure that your thumbprint does not cross the box of one candidate to another candidate. You must demonstrate how they must tick, that you must tick in a manner that shows that you are only voting for that. But that must be at an interface level. But because of COVID-19 and the restrictions that were put in place on the number of people that could be gathered, we also resorted to media. The bulk of our voter education was conducted through radio talk shows and occasionally through TV programs. So on the issue of sensitizing the voters of voter education, we endeavor to do as much as possible in the circumstances provided by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, we also received these complaints from stakeholders that there was inadequate voter education. And the commission, as we talk now, that's why some of my colleagues are not here. Normally, when we are summoned or invited to appear before the committees of parliament, we come as a full commission. But this time, it is only me and the acting secretary and the head legal, because the other 6 commissioners are in the field. We are trying to review what exactly happened before the trails get cold, if I may put it that way, and then we put in place those measures. So one of the things we are looking at is voter education. What is it that could have been done? But as I said, Madam Chair, the starting point is that the COVID-19 restrictions could not allow us or enable us to carry out voter education in the normal way as we normally do it. That is by gathering people either at a sub-county or at a given location, and then we sensitize them or take them through the pros and cons of the voting processes.